Dulles, it's about 6 hours, 5.5 hours.
In your time zone, you don't have a huge time change.
5 hours.
It's 5? It's more than I thought.
Yeah, it's 5 hours.
I would have thought 3. Wow.
No, it's 5. I know it looks like it because it's sort
It's
of
kind of, not that far over.
5
Well,
hours.
haven't had any freezing pipes over there, have you?
No, actually, no.
Yeah, well, yes.
Thank you, man.
No, he is not coming.
Man, you
We've
talking
had
about,
He's
it go through the
vacationing.
roof. That's
Another
just
one
of many
vacationing.
fires, but we've
I'm
had,
not sure
we've had
where.
record numbers of calls.
He's in Norway.
For, and a lot of times they end up just being pipes in their house and everything, but I mean, just morning.
Ours was actually not a vacation, it was more of a business trip, but,
Hey, you can always, if
But
you're
we-
like me, I always
yes.
managed to put
well,
a
and that's what we did. The
couple funds
Iceland
in.
thing was the way home, we said we'd spend a couple
Yeah,
of
that's-
days.
I totally- I'm with that.
carries over the creek,
Yep.
right? Every damn farmer that's done that and got these
Yeah,
nice
that's
waters
cool.
there over frozen.
Rick, you
Some of them are hauling water to the cow.
Saying it wrong.
We
Yep.
decided to, we rented a car and we decided to drive across the island for the time we had.
I didn't fence my creek.
And we going up this mountain and the snow is real dry and powdery, so it blows like waves. It
Because
like-
they're not
It looks
walking
like
on it.
ocean waves.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
cool.
bad.
Snow.
You
Yeah.
got to speak bad.
And it would blow
Oh, I
across
know
the
what it
road
has
and
to
all of a
do
sudden you
with,
couldn't see the
believe
road for a few
That's
seconds.
one thing I'm
and-
very
So kind of
familiar
freaky,
with
that
what
kind
you're
of,
talking
I
Gotta be
heard
water,
that there,
gotta
is
be
it in
heaters for
Iceland where
troughs.
there's that like ring of fire, like
mean,
where
they
it's
said
a
a
road
creek
that goes
freezes
all
up
around
the
the
cows aren't
island,
walking.
and it's like
Yeah, they call it golden something.
something, I don't know what the
Yeah.
name of it is. That
What
looked
it
pretty
is,
cool
what
too.
Yeah, and they've got a couple of really big glaciers. We didn't have time to do all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 3 days you kind of,
Mechanical
you know.
action.
Did you, how are the hotels?
Ball,
I heard the
float,
hotels
this, that, and the
are,
other,
No,
and it
they're
keeps the
European.
water
Yeah.
from
The
freezing.
rooms
the
are
rooms are
small.
about the size of this table.
Yeah, the rooms are small, but it was clean
Then
and
it didn't have
the
no water
hotel
to
was
work
actually one of the less
Work that. Work
expensive
water.
parts.
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
so,
one-
so now this
I
offense is up, they
pre-booked
can't
on
get to water.
hotels.com, we paid about $100 a night. It was
Oh, that's-
I'm with you.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
for-
it was nice.
and
was
what the
clean, it was
proper
right on the
did was
water.
turn down the
Yeah,
other
that's
fences,
key.
you know.
As long as it's
No,
clean, I can handle anything.
but
It's like,
would've
I always
done
like
if
rip down the
Christmas in
sheets. That's the
creek,
first thing
I
I
would
do.
use the other
Make
fences
sure there's
like
no
cutting-
hair or anything
cutting
like that.
Fence to the
Well,
creek.
you know,
and
Iceland's a
go in
European.
and-
Yeah.
Europeans
They
are
gotta
good. Well,
drink.
the Germans
Call it
and
damn
the
Hoover Gate.
Norwegians,
Call it
and,
Hoover
you know,
Gate.
they're all clean.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody, Germany north is
Old Bow Wow
clean.
Gate with
South of
with
Germany,
two sticks.
Check.
Oh,
Damn
man.
right, and then- but yeah, I.
You ever been to Italy?
Supposed to do that by, what year?
I had to listen to.
You much
Yeah.
prefer the public restrooms in Germany than
Yeah.
we do in
If
Italy.
you don't do it by then the cost share goes away.
Alrighty, guys.
Everything. Oh, okay.
I now call the Powhatan County Planning Commission meeting to order. I think Dave will leave us in tonight's invocation.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance and direction in our collective effort to be good stewards of the public trust, to make fair and wise decisions, and to keep Powhatan a wonderful place to live and work. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Need to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes. Do all you have any changes? Bill, you do, I can tell.
No. One will welcome Mr. Norby.
Oh, I didn't see him walk in.
He just snuck in.
Yes. I would like to welcome Mr. Norvik to our Planning Commission meeting. Thank you for attending. I chatted with him a couple weeks ago, and I said we would be thrilled to have him.
Thank you for
We
coming.
don't have a ton of people here, so that's great. Thank you.
We needed an audience.
Yeah. Meeting minutes. Any additions? Okay. I move we approve the Planning Commission minutes from February 3rd. All those in favor, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the administrative items. Mr. Altman, anything you want to discuss in particular?
No, you have the monthly reports in front of you.
Okay.
We're still kind of clipping along with our effort. Obviously, we haven't had a whole lot of rezonings or anything to sink our teeth in yet, but you know, we've got a few CUPs. When we do come to the request to amend the agenda, I have a couple items that I would like to add when we get there. If there's any questions about the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okey dokey. Do you all have anything on that?
No, ma'am.
I see that Murphy Express has been approved, the site plan.
Yes, sir.
When they gonna start?
April is what I heard.
Is that- okay.
If it stops snowing. Talked with one builder today who's been trying to dig a footing for a month,
I bet.
so.
Okay. Why don't we do the public comment period, then we'll make any
Okay.
adjustments to the agenda. We'll now have the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on anything that is not on tonight's agenda, please come forward and state your name for the record. Seeing there is no one, we'll close the public comment period. No presentations. I would like to see if we would like to have any, I guess, adjustments to tonight's agenda.
I would like to add a couple of items to the workshop agenda.
Okay.
One, I want to give you an update of where we are with the subdivision ordinance. I've got some information that we compiled for the board. We discussed at the workshop with them last week regarding comments made by development community, engineers, designers in the community. So I want to share that with you. I have an issue to bring to you to discuss with regard to the setback we have for industrial properties. Currently, it's 150 foot from all other zoning districts, and want to just kind of chat with you all about that for a little bit. And then I have one last item that I'd like to add, which is just I want to hand out to you a copy of the draft scope of services that for the Route 60
Okay.
Eastern Area Corridor. I've met with VDOT and want to just give you an update on that.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Anything else? All right, moving on to our first and only public hearing.
Good evening. We have 1501 CUP. And this is Sharon and Earl Williams, 2116 Lakeview Drive. This is a conditional use permit to renew operation of child daycare center. Subject property is currently zoned residential utility. And the subject property is in the center. This is the overlay of the zoning. You can see the brown is the residential utility. The property is outlined. This is the site plan that was submitted with the original application, has been resubmitted with this renewal. View of the subject property from the front. The driveway is to the side, which would be to the right in that picture. There's property to the right, neighboring parcel. Neighboring parcel to the left. This is the area mentioned in the report that is the fenced-in area, playground area, to the rear of the lot. And this is a picture, obviously, inside of that area. Case overview, child daycare center is obviously a conditional use in the residential utility district. The proposed use is located at the intersection of Lakeview Drive and Ocala Drive. The access will be from the existing driveway on Lakeview Drive. Comprehensive plan, subject property shown as rural residential on the plan. The conditional use is in general accord with the comprehensive plan for this use. Comments, concerns, reviewing agencies had no outstanding concerns with this request. Staff has no outstanding concerns, and staff has received no formal comments from citizens nor even any telephone calls reference this request. Compliance history has no record of any violations with this existing CUP for the last 2 years, nor any calls at all reference this conditional use permit. Recommendation, staff does recommend approval of other requests subject to the list of recommended conditions which are in the staff report. The applicants are here today, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Would the applicants care to come forward and make a comment or statement? Okay, thanks. We will have the public hearing first on this. Anyone wishing to speak on this CUP, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing there is no one, we'll close the public hearing. I'll now open it up for questions of staff or the applicant. Do all of you all have any?
I have none.
Okay. All right, perfect. That goes quick. Whose district is this in?
It's one, so.
This one, mine? God.
Yeah,
yours.
that would be you.
Come on, Kelly.
Well, I told you it was a late night. I missed the thing on the agenda, sorry. I was thinking it was 3, my God. I move that the commission recommend approval of the conditional use permit. This motion is based upon the public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice. Any questions or comments on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, that might not be the last flub for the night either. I'm warning you right now. All right. CUP.
CIP?
CIP.
That wasn't long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's what, 2 seconds?
2 seconds.
Ish.
You're still in the sunny confines of Florida.
I know.
At your last meeting, Ms. Weiler, the county administrator, presented the draft CIP to the planning commission for your review. If you have any questions of that, we will be scheduling, as part of the budget process with the board, a work session on the CIP, and then ultimately there'll be a public hearing on the CIP. Really, the commission's role in this process, as you know, is just to make a recommendation as to compliance with the comp plan requirements. So if there's any questions that you have of me regarding any of the projects, which she presented, if I remember correctly, was not a fiscally constrained CIP. I can't remember if she's completed that or working on completing that. And once we have a fiscally constrained, that I'll provide that back to the planning
Okay.
commission. So,
And the constrained CIP is what we will be,
well, what the board will take action on.
right.
So tonight, you want us to take action on what we,
If
What do
in
you-
general, what we need is just in general, if the feeling of the commission is that the CIP is in keeping with the comprehensive plan. That's all. You don't have to, and quite frankly, the code doesn't require you to take any action on the CIP,
okay.
so.
What do you?
Yeah, as much as could be possible. I understand the restraints that we're dealing with, so I'm fine with it, and the out years are the out years.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what the restrained budget looks like, but I think, there's enough priority things that, I know we had the radio system, that type of thing, that I personally understand and do the best we can. I don't really have anything at this point. I would like to see, just out of curiosity, what it is when it's been vetted.
Yeah. We'll certainly provide that to you once we have it.
Okay.
Okay?
So do we need to,
You don't have to.
We'll just shake
Okay.
our heads, okay?
okay, looks good. Moving on, I guess we'll go to our workshop.
You want to do it here?
Okay, we can
Okay.
do it here.
Sure. So the first item, and I brought extra copies, if y'all didn't bring your one from last time, regarding the Routes 7-Eleven overlay.
Got it right here in my thick book.
All right, that's why you have the thick book. So here's some extra copies.
Thank you.
But this is the same one we got last time.
Yeah, exact same one as last time. Just wanted to know if the commission had had an opportunity to review, make any comments, what your thoughts were with regard to where we had looked at inserting some of the language from the current 7-Eleven district into our development standards.
I reviewed it, and I did like your recommendations for,
Okay.
I don't have a problem with doing that. Like I said before, if we like it in the overlay district, and we like the standards that whole district has been held to, let's expand that to the other districts. So that's how I
And I
feel.
was fine with it since
Yeah,
the presentation last time.
okay.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
All those trees died for nothing.
Yeah, well, actually, there's two groups of trees died, because the first time I printed it, it was upside down.
Remember,
on the
that's
back
renewable
page.
resource now.
Okay,
Well, some of us make a little money off of them.
That's right. Pine trees are a renewable resource. That's exactly right.
all right, moving on, the private, so you got the kind of marching orders with that, were, no
Yep.
pun intended,
We'll-
marching,
Yeah,
march?
that's,
I'm not that
you're
off.
punchy. You're punchy, aren't you? Yes, we'll prepare an actual, get the draft, the amendment finalized and to you for a public hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. Private road recommendations.
You had
I'm
indicated.
taking care of that.
I guess, just to close the loop, when you get that ready, we'll bring
I
it
will-
back to everybody. for-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and that meeting, the joint me going to the board is in May. That was sort of
Mm-hmm. May.
the tentative plan,
That's
correct?
correct. That's what we
So
have it
I will
scheduled
try to
for.
have something for us, obviously prior to that, April. Soon,
Okay.
okay.
So here's the one that Mr. Van Gelder doesn't have in his book. These are all the comments that were submitted to staff regarding the subdivision ordinance.
Okay,
And So we compiled them much like we did with the ag district. You want one, Woody?
Woody's out of it too. Woody's out of it
Woody
too.
submitted some of these too, so.
Okay.
We discussed this at the board workshop last week on Tuesday. Went through it pretty quickly. I think ultimately, of all of these issues, it boils down to really two things. Flag lots and large lot development. Our current subdivision ordinance exempts large lot development from the requirements of the ordinance. The proposed one does not. So that creates a lot of angst amongst some people. If I have to comply with the ordinance now, then I have to do all of these things that the ordinance requires, and I don't have to do that now. And there's some good things, pluses and minuses to that. 10 acres or more, do we want to require utilities to be underground? Is it financially feasible to put utilities underground when you have 10-acre lots? The one that I think is a pretty easy one, and I have an idea of maybe where it came from, and if he's not here tonight, I apologize in advance. We have a requirement in here for the provision of solid waste containers, basically trash pickup. Well, if we're doing one, we don't have a contract like some communities do with through CVWNA for residential pickup. But the ordinance would require the subdivision developer or homeowners association to have that. A lot of communities, like say Chesterfield, they don't have a contract, but they give you a list of providers, and it's up to the individual resident to contract with whatever provider they want to come pick up their waste. So that was an issue, but ultimately, as you go through this, everything's going to fall out on the flag lot issue, because right now, for single cuts, for charitable subdivisions, for family divisions, even large lot, I think, all of it says all you have to do is have 30 foot of the road out of the right-of-way, which creates a flag lot. So if the board's thought process is we're going to do away with flag lots, and all that language has to change. So those are kind of the two overriding issues. Are we going to exempt large lot development, or are we not? I have a question of just, I need some history from y'all.
Even if we do exempt it, the way we exempt it,
Yeah.
we simply say it's not a subdivision.
Right.
Well, it is a subdivision, so
But-
even if we are going to exempt large lots, we ought to still rewrite this and say we exempt them outright, rather than just doing a fiction.
Yeah.
That it is a subdivision. You cut, even if you're cutting 10-acre lots, it's still a subdivision, and we simply, in our current ordinance, say, if it's over 10-acre lots, it's not a subdivision.
So,
Okay.
and you don't have to comply with our increased pavement standards, yet everything's VDOT wise. So,
That would also create a whole nother series of private roads if you exempt it?
no, you can have a public road.
No, but I understand you can, but would that,
You-
Would it
it would now not
incentive?
require you.
Right.
So if we exempt it, we then create a problem which some folks are concerned about today.
Right.
Okay?
It's not a question if we exempt it, it is exempted. The
Right.
discussion is, do we want to unexempt it?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it is
Okay, okay.
it is currently
Okay,
exempted, so.
And you were saying you wanted some history.
Yeah, I have, we've run into an issue with regard, and I'm struggling to understand the concept that we have about single cuts. Our subdivision ordinance says in A10, our zoning ordinance, minimum lot size is 10 acres. But then our subdivision ordinance says, well, if you do a single cut, you can do 2 acres. So correct me if I'm wrong, we're allowing you to create a non-conforming parcel, 2 acres, as opposed to the zoning ordinance says 10.
All right.
And what was the benefit of having the single cut? So what I've got is a situation where I've got someone that says, well, we're developing this road and some lots, but I get my single cut, and it's somewhere back here. We don't know where it is yet, but it's somewhere back here. I get my reserve, my 2-acre lot. Remember that. Well, why wouldn't we say it's gotta be 10 acres? So I don't know the thought process behind it, so.
Goes back a long time.
I was just going to look at Owen.
goes
I
back
think
a
I,
long time.
yeah.
One of the reasons, and Woody probably can help me out some on this, that was it gave a farmer or large landowner a way to cut off a lot and make some money. In other words, get some money.
Right, sell
Would it
it,
matter?
something other than a family division.
Yeah, yeah. And we went through process where the developers figured this thing out. They'd rezone say, a 100-acre parcel, and they would do that single cut. And the single cut stayed A1, the old A1.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had R1 around it. And we finally worked out of that, didn't we? Would it, in other words, I kind of pushed, I guess it was Roy Crawford was the planning director at that time, because you had a A1 1-acre lot. It was 1 acre at first. Then it was 2 acres. And then you had a 1-acre lot sitting inside of a 100-lot, 1-acre lot R1 subdivision. So we kind of, we talked to developers out of doing that. But the main reason for that was for somebody that had a piece of land that needed a little money and, you know, get a few $1,000s for, well, it was 1 acre, then it went to 2 acres. And when we went from, everything was 1 acre. Everything was 1 acre. That's why you had Kimberly Farms, Chestnut Oaks, and all the, they were 1 acre lots. And so the 1 acre cut was included in that. And then the family division was 1 acre. Then, when we went to 2 acres, it took a while to get the family divisions all up to 2 acres, didn't it, Woody?
Yes, sir.
In other words, and you have a lot of minorities in the county that supported this smaller divisions. And now all that property is A1. I mean, at that time, it was 99% of the county was A1.
Right.
And so that's where they go. And the feeling of the commission and the boards at that time was that helped maintain a rural character to a certain extent.
But you forgot one thing.
What's that?
It used to be, you could cut off 7 lots, well, they're going through rezoning.
Zach, right, we had what we call,
Then that's when we went back to the single cut.
yeah, we had what they call a minor subdivision
Yeah,
rule.
7 lots,
And,
no
and
rezoning.
if you look at, if you go down Dorset Road, what's that called? Junto Estates? Junto Mill, huh? Junto Estates. All right, you look down Dorset Road, they are all 1 acre lots, and they are still A1, I presume. We went back and tried to get everybody to take those lots that were really a subdivision and go to R1. And we were regularly successful with that. But that stayed in only a year or two.
Right, then we went back to, you get 1 lot cut off of your code.
You're right, yeah,
That's a compromise.
yeah.
Okay.
But the subdivision order said the division of tract of land is 2 parcels, one of which could be less than 10 acres.
Yep.
That's what the subdivision said.
Yeah.
So we had to get 1 cut less than 10 acres, everything else to be over 10 acres. You want it less than another one, then you have to go to primary subdivision.
Yeah, my only issue is that by doing that, we're permitting a non-conforming lot to be created.
Well, we had long discussions
Yes, yes.
in the comprehensive plan about
You're
that.
right, but that's wrong.
What?
Because the subdivision order says you can cut off 1 lot less
But
than 10 acres.
anything that is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance is technically null and void.
That's been argued quite a few times with the former zoning administrator.
Well, it's an interesting legal quandary. March and I were discussing this. We have the single cut 2 acres, but we also have a 10-acre minimum. And so if I was in court, I mean, I think we have this conflict, this legal conflict as to which one trumps which.
Right.
You know, the people making the single cut are gonna go, well, the 2 acres trumps the 10, but then I'm gonna say, but the zoning ordinance was
Should-
passed after
Right.
that. And the later adopted ordinance should trump the older ordinance, and that, and it's a legal quagmire that we need to address anyway.
Well, I don't, in other words, and you talking about, if you do a family division of 2 acres, it's gonna be a non-conforming lot?
Well, if you follow the premise that the zoning ordinance rules, and our subdivision ordinance actually says in places that the lots created shall comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, then anything created less than that particular zoning district requires would be a non-conforming lot. So, but I think
We had this
there's,
discussion with one of the previous county attorneys, if I'm not mistaken. We were doing this on, doing definitions, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all remember all this? On the 2 acre lots and non-conforming. And I think if we, somewhere we put in there, somehow or the other, I don't know whether it was legal mumbo jumbo or what, but,
Those were existing.
No, sir. Because, I got 4 children, and I don't necessarily want to, and some grandchildren, and I don't want to necessarily have to give them a minimum of 10 acres apiece. And I think that's what we were, that's been the philosophy of this county, so the children in August State, of course, mine not here, so that's why I haven't given them any yet. But who knows? They might have to come back and take care of me. But anyhow, yeah, that, we hashed that thing over. Now, what's the state code say? State code says if you have 30 feet, you can get entrance. You can get a easement, right?
I haven't looked that.
Well, look it
information
up, because one of the county attorneys and the planning director several years ago, we looked it up. And,
That's talking flag lot versus.
Right.
right,
single
exactly,
cut.
Yeah.
that's talking,
We talked
that's
about-
that's what the definition, in other words, you can, if you just got 30 feet, you gonna call it a flag lot? Or if you
Well-
got a 30 feet and you got a road going back to a lot somewhere in the back of your property.
Well, if the code, which a lot of subdivision ordinances will say in the because I've looked at some around here, that all lots created must comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance for that district. So in A10, we require 215 foot of frontage. Well, then that's what you gotta have. And I would venture to say, and I've gotta look at the state code section if it's there.
You look it up.
But the issue will be if it says may or shall.
I'm not aware of any state code section that says we have to allow anybody that's got 30 feet to subdivide.
I'm talking about having a lot. In other words, the way y'all talking, any lot will be considered a flag lot that just has 30 feet going to it. Some of these, there's plenty of old roads in this county that people had just right-of-ways or prescriptive easements.
Yeah.
Well, if you have an existing lot, that's not a problem. All we're discussing is creation of new
Creation.
lots.
That's what I was
Creation, yeah.
saying, that
Yeah, and the existing lots are there, there's nothing we can do about
Well,
those.
in other words, in order for, no, what I'm saying, if I want to give my children some of my 220 acres, then I gotta have 215 feet. Well, I got a long, narrow farm. It's 1 mile deep and probably, 3 or 4 acres wide, with it. And so, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna road strip. If I do that, I'm gonna road strip. Now, that's one of the things we got away from a long time ago was road stripping. So that's one of the reasons we have private roads, and so we could get back and get people off. In fact, I got a plat that one was done up on Rocky Ford not that long ago, a nice piece of property, and they road stripped that.
We haven't gotten
The
we
way
haven't
they-
gotten away from road stripping. We're just stripping it out in bigger pieces.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, but that was,
Yeah.
if you look, we used to road strip quite a bit. And Bill Pruitt was the one that got us away from road stripping, and I gotta commend him for that.
So do you have your historical perspective?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to, so this was given to us basically for our enlightenment,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Just
but,
just to keep you informed as to what we're doing at the board level with the ordinance.
okay, keep us posted,
Yeah,
because
we
it's
certainly
good.
will.
Thank you.
And my comment still goes, if we want to maintain rural character, we need to get mud on our tires once in a while.
Mark, well, let's go back to the non-conforming
Mm-hmm.
lot piece, both the single cut and the family subdivision. Is this, I mean, from your perspective, I understand that creates a lot less than 10 acres, which is I think by definition, a non-conforming lot.
Yes.
And so the question is whether we do away with those. Is this something we're actively looking to do away with, or where are we in that process?
It's not something that, at this point, we're actively looking to do away with. It's something that, in our discussions during the week, came up.
Why should we encourage non-conforming
Right. Well,
lots?
the quandary we have is, typically from a zoning perspective, it's not our job to encourage the nonconformity. You're supposed to comply with the ordinance, not give you an out not to comply with the ordinance. So, where in the zoning ordinance, we say this is the requirement, but then over in the subdivision ordinance, we say, well, this is the requirement, but if you do this, it's not the requirement anymore. And so it just becomes an issue for us to have to deal with. And so my issue talking about the single cut is, we've got this one development that we're looking at, that the single cut isn't out on the road. It's somewhere back here in this piece of property. We don't know where yet. We don't know how we'll ultimately end up, but well, don't forget, I got my single cut and I've got this easement that keeps going. Even though I'm gonna put in a public road, inching along, I still got this easement going back here to this single cut. Well, why? You're developing this piece of property. You're cutting everything up into 10-acre lots on a public road. Why do we want to have a one-acre lot in there? This is when you're subdividing the property and essentially developing it. This is the question I didn't have any of the background on it, so that's why I asked, because it's just, to me, when we're getting into the subdivision of it, it's A10, it's by right, so there's not a whole lot we can do about it at this point. But why wouldn't we have it all 10-acre lots, but we've got this one acre sitting there?
We had Watkins Nursery sold some property, 3 parcels on 609 a few years ago. And they were purchased by a developer who then cut them up into 10-acre lots.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, none of these parcels are divided by 10. Okay? So there's one, I forget the exact number, say it's pretty close, it's 36 acres. So it's 3 10-acre lots and 1 6-acre lot. So the question would be, what do you do in that situation with that 6-acre lot? Well, that's 6 acres, what do you do? Do you add it to,
Wouldn't you add it to one of the 10?
well, you can,
Yeah.
but in fact, it is worth more to the person who purchased it if he or she can sell 4 lots.
Correct, but we wouldn't allow that.
No, we did allow that.
Yeah.
With the single, if they had, I
That's the
don't
one-
think,
No, the one 6-acre is the single cut.
Right.
And the rest of them are 10 acres.
Not on a private road.
No, I was talking about on 609.
okay.
You surveyed it, I mean,
Which goes back to the road stripping you were,
yes, we're still road stripping
That's what.
in a big way.
okay.
If we do away with
Yeah, that,
If we do away with flag lots, don't we encourage more driveways, more school bus stops?
Well, you
Aren't
would-
they generally shared?
Well, they're not supposed to be generally shared, because you're supposed to have your own access to, every lot's supposed to have that 30 feet. So what you can get into is, I have the 10-acre lot on the road, driveway, 2 flags, driveway, another 10, driveway, 2 flags, driveways beside each other, on down the road. If you wanted to strip frontage out, and you've got the depth, that's the way you do it. And from my perspective, now we're creating more, what I think, what the intent would be is to not have road stripping, but have that public road going in there that serves these lots from the interior, and you have one access point out to the main road, not a bunch of lots here, and then a road running back behind it. So,
Well,
Well, that's one of the reasons for private roads, with these 10-acre lots, the state agricultural. And, was to get away from the road stripping that, like is right there on Rocky Ford, which are nice lots, but they got a bunch of them
Yeah.
lined up. And nice houses and all. But that's, 'cause, the horse business is just, no, I'm a co-man, and I don't understand the horse business, but, and those people love these 10-acre lots,
yeah.
and they like them on private roads.
Well,
As simple as that.
And it's, that's one way to look at preserving the rural character. But so it becomes a by right development. And if I can do it by right, I don't have to come before the board, I don't have to come before the planning commission, I can just go out and start buying up.
You gotta get your private road approval.
I don't have to do a private road, I can do a public road if I want to.
Well, you can do public road.
And so,
Well, who's gonna do that?
we have one going on right now.
There's not gonna be many of them in the county, I tell you.
But you can. So what that does is you end up with a situation where you're actually developing the rural area by putting more lots there than you are in the area that you want development, by right. I can't do anything about it. Builds a public road, meets the minimum lot size requirements, we can't stop it.
I wonder what those lots gonna sell for.
So we have a comp plan that says we want development in 3 places. We've got a board that has indicated that they're not interested in or willing to approve any rezoning applications in the rural preservation area, but yet we've got potentially by right development in the rural preservation area that we can't stop. And what that'll do to us.
But
is
do you wanna stop it?
Well, what that will do to us in the long run is it will require us, it will stretch our services. Because now I've got development all over the place. That means I got more school buses that have to run everywhere. I've got longer response times, increased calls for service in the rural area, as opposed, it's cheaper for us to have the development in the consolidated area to be able to provide services to it.
Now.
but you've
And
also
when you-
taken to set the tax value of that property up significantly.
Which property?
The property that was agriculture, okay, and now you've put a house on it,
Mhm.
and you've changed the value of its, tax value of it significantly,
You have.
okay? So there is some money for those services that's
Some.
being
It
paid.
depends on the value of the house and property.
Right.
But with 10 acres,
Yeah, you'll
okay,
have-
it's not going to be $1.298.
Yeah.
No.
The other thing that historically has been a factor in this was the value of property for families or folks that had had it for a long time, and the ability to unlock that value in a variety of ways other than just staying as farming. And historically, we have been concerned about eliminating that value by ordinance.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the right balance is. I mean,
Right.
from flag lots, I continue to contend is the flag lot's not the problem, it's the one in front of it. The one you can see from the road, not the one that's over the hill.
Well, I think with flag lots, though, you create.
I understand
Yeah.
the other side of that. Was in the comments that you got on subdivision ordinance, was there anything that, in here that surprised you? Was there anything that, not amused you, but was in a substantive way surprised you?
Well, I think the whole discussion of exempting or not exempting large lot development and what that brings in. So one of the tasks that we have is to kind of take down the middle and say, this is what large lot development has to do today, this is what it would have to do under the proposed ordinance for the board. Well, actually, we got one comment that came in from, that they agreed with what we did. So that was, I thought, good, which was the whole elimination of all the specific standards related to drinking water and just saying you got to comply with the health department regulations. That was the one thing that, they said, the one change
It's a
that they
bone
said
to toss.
we did good. I really, in the first set of questions that I got, which was probably the first 30, at least the first 32 questions, all revolved around the large lot development issue. That's where the crux of the concern was. A lot of the comments, this is the interesting piece, a lot of the comments or things that were said, well, you need to change this, were items that we currently require in the subdivision ordinance, our current subdivision ordinance. So we would sit, and I sat with one gentleman, and we were talking, and, well, we don't require this now. I flipped to the current ordinance, and so we require it right there. So I think what the new ordinance did was it made everybody go back and reread everything.
Excuse me.
But you'll see throughout, if we currently require it, my position was we continue to require it.
I was at the meeting the night. We had a variety of folks stand up and act surprised. Just looking back over your shoulder, and you weren't here for all of this, but just kind of second guessing the process, we really did try and get people to come give us their opinion and provide this kind of information. In going through this, have you seen anything that we could have done differently? Did you see any, do you have any brilliant flash of light?
Well, one, I think it's always difficult to get people to come out to comment on things until they feel that something's being taken away. So what happened between our action here and the board was there was a workshop and a discussion of, well, we need to do away with private roads and flag lots, and then everybody got up and alarmed. So maybe, the old joke that we have is maybe what we need to do is we need to send out letters to everybody saying we're taking away all your rights, and then have everybody show up at the meeting and say, oh, that was a mistake. We just wanted you to come out and, because, it's awfully lonely out there.
Yeah.
For what typically most planning commissions do. I think the one comment that I've heard, and I know we talked about, was for some, particularly out in the community, it would have probably been easier had we gone to the old ordinance and made changes, because they can make that connection. What I've done to my copy of the proposed ordinance is I went in and kind of like we did with the comments section here, I went in and cross-referenced every section in the new code back to the old code. So I could make that quick cross tab to say, oh, we've got that, and this is what it says. I think that would have been a little bit easier for some people to make the transition, as opposed to when they got the new one,
Right.
even though we required it in the current one, the new one was, it was assumed it was basically all new.
Okay.
So, but hindsight is always 20/20, and I think y'all have done a tremendous job. I mean, this hasn't been an easy task for y'all. You've worked at it for a long time, and here we are towards the end, and now everything bubbles
Yeah,
up
that
at
part's a
the
little
end.
frustrating.
Yeah, and you would like for it to have said, hey, where were these comments when we were talking about it? But I think it took a couple of potentials for something to happen, and that's unfortunately how a lot of times public participation works, is now that I'm afraid that I'm going to lose something, now I'll come out. It's kind of like the same thing happened. We did the same sheet for the ag district for the zoning, and we had all kinds of questions from people that didn't understand that what zoning district they were in, or I can't do this anymore. Well, no, that isn't what it says. So the fear motivated a lot of people, unfortunately, and the only way I can say that you get that participation is you strike first, and that isn't really what you want to do. You want to have input from people up front, and it's always an interesting quandary, I guess, to how to get the people out to comment.
So like if people reading heck about the Family Dollar on East and Henrico.
Yeah, yeah, it's not gonna happen over their dead body. So, but no, I think y'all did a lot of work, and I know it's been, for y'all, probably 4 years, and for me, a year and a half, a little bit more than that. So I know there's a lot of what I would call ordinance fatigue.
Yeah. Anything else?
Is
Move on.
this something the board is going to resolve, or are we looking forward to getting?
I think, yes, the board is going to resolve it. We went through this quickly, not quickly, but the workshop, I want to say we ended around 11:30 last Tuesday nights. And by the way, just for the record, it's all his fault. Since he's been on the board, we've gone marathon meetings 2 weeks in a row. Last night was 10 to 12, and the week before was 11:30. So
Should we ask him to
Thank
leave?
you very much.
Should we tell him to leave the
Yeah,
room
we
now
need to-
so it doesn't go, yeah.
I'm going to stop asking questions.
I think when we went through it, there was a general consensus on most of the items. Ultimately, it's the large lot issue that comes out. And if the board wants to do away with flags, then there's a lot of things we've got to go back into the large lot, to the family division, to the charitable division, and take that 30-foot language out if they don't want to have that anymore. And we'll check the state code. Those actions will be a function of what ultimately they decide. And I don't know where we're at right now. We proposed some language to address that. It wasn't agreed with, so we're trying to come up with some language that will work. And I think I got language from close to maybe 10 other communities and put it all together and said, hey, here it is. Let me know what you think.
Take a look.
Yeah. So ultimately, the sausage will get made, and we'll start enforcing it. So.
All right. Setbacks.
Setbacks. Currently, our zoning ordinance in the I district requires, with the exception of front setback, which is 75 foot, side and rear setbacks of 150 feet. Previously, it was 25 feet with a 75-foot buffer, if I remember what we talked about.
It was 75 against a lot of districts.
Right.
Still 150 against ag, 75 against a lot of districts, and 50 against some districts.
So we went to a straight 150. And looking at some of we have some isolated industrial properties. We've got some in the Jefferson industrial piece. Unfortunately, Maslow would. Looking at, I actually went and looked at her parcel, and I don't know if she knows it, but from her eastern property line, 150 foot into her property is the middle.
Probably in the middle of the
The middle
building.
of the building.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to expand, they're not going to be able to expand because there's ag all around it. We've got 150 foot off both sides and coming from the rear. There's no way for the business to expand.
If they decided a year ago, 5 years ago, well, we might want to expand, and so had an opportunity to buy adjacent property, didn't mess with the zoning. Does common ownership provide any relief?
They would still have to get a rezoning, wouldn't they? They would
No,
still
no,
have to-
but the fact is, it's.
Would that weigh more heavily on a possible
Well,
rezoning is what you're.
so what we've got is a parcel of land. I buy this piece. Does that now push my property line further out, is what you're saying?
Well, does it change the need for buffers because you own both pieces of property, even though they're not zoned the same?
No, because
That
you
was-
theoretically sell that property the
Right.
next week.
Yeah.
So
What I would
Okay.
say is it would if, we'll play the scenario. I would say, well, if you re-subdivide that property, make it one lot, now that could come into play.
Okay.
But we've got to enforce the setbacks from each parcel. So,
Can't be that close to yourself, right?
yeah, and this will affect some of the remaining lots in Jefferson, also in Oak Ridge, on the southern side where it butts up against the ag district coming up into the property. So, just thinking, and part of the reason for thinking about this is we're starting this economic development discussion. So, I'm looking at availability of sites, and if I have an availability of site, but then we can't do anything with it because of the setback, we're not gonna be able to come in and get a variance because it really isn't a hardship. Although it's state law, they can't do all that. So, I just wanted to, we're throwing it out there. We'll probably bring some specific examples back to you at the next meeting with some setbacks shown on it and how we would limit the property. At a minimum, we were thinking about the sliding scale that was there before. And when you think about it from from a zoning district standpoint, ag, residential, commercial, industrial, the commercial and industrial is supposed to be a little bit more compatible because you get more intensive
Correct.
use. Maybe that setback is reduced, not 150 foot up against commercial, maybe it's not, I understand. And the only thing that I've been asked, well, why do you think we did it? Well, I wasn't really here, but what I can guess is the one overriding issue that I've heard over and over and over again is the asphalt plant and South Creek. So, well, that's, because we were having a conversation, and even within our industrial district, there is
Such
an
a
intensity
variation
of
of
use
uses.
within the uses
Yeah.
there that would require maybe something more intense for one use versus a building that is, everything happens within the enclosed building. You don't even know what's going on inside. It's just a warehouse on the outside.
And I think to that point, one thing to consider is, when we're looking at this, is like the buffering. I mean, for instance, our building is, I don't know, how many feet would you say that's off the road, the front of it?
Oh, you're probably, the front of your building is
Yeah.
over 100 foot off the road.
You think from the front of the building to the road, you think it's 100 feet? You think it's
Yeah.
that far?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, because our building's pretty hidden, with the buffering. So you can get away with a lot with having a heavy buffer on it. I mean, we have people drive by there all the time that have no idea that it's even exists, and it's a big building. And to March's point, I mean, not all industrial uses are created equal. I mean, you have a weight pack, which is, I think we rezoned that to light industrial, if I'm not mistaken, and that is all inside. But you would not have any problem having that next to a commercial use. It's seamless.
So how do you address that?
I don't know. That's what we got to
It's okay
address.
in some situations, but not others.
Yeah, and that's exactly
Trying to
it.
find one size fits all, that doesn't work.
Well, in 150 feet of mowed grass
Is a big
doesn't
difference.
provide much
Right.
of a buffer.
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother complication, I think. And this goes to our farmland compatibility standards, which is something we dealt with.
dealt with a little bit.
Okay, and so the agricultural buffer under it is 100 feet, okay? Not 150 feet.
That, we reduced that.
No, we reduced it in the plan
In the
development.
plan
area.
development,
But,
okay, yeah.
But ag around you, the ag buffer is 100 feet, okay?
Right.
The setback is 150 feet. However, the director may allow the buffer, he has, in agricultural buffers, he has the ability to modify it.
So are you suggesting we do the same thing as?
He can be reduced up to 20%, okay?
So he could reduce that because he wants to.
But, well, if it, made
Yeah.
sense depending, and so, I mean, it's a long way to get to things, but
Yeah.
I like, just as we did with the tower, okay, that, if you can make the case, bring it to us.
Right.
With weight pack like it is, I don't know that they can build those buildings they want to build since we passed this new ordinance.
Yeah.
It might limit them from the size.
I bet you it would.
What they originally want to do.
If they're 350-foot wide lot,
There's no way.
300 of that is now
That's
required in the
That's not
setback.
good.
Yeah, I think we need to look at that, I mean, for sure.
No,
It has a
Yeah.
limiting factor. I understand the
Yes,
need,
in the,
but
yeah.
now,
It's
well,
that
it's kind
push.
of like a lot of things. Once we test drive it,
Oh, yeah.
maybe
You realize,
the
yeah, not so good.
application,
Well,
We
if,
anticipated that.
yeah.
if you look at the setback, it's 150 feet for every division, every zoning classification that we have, and if it's something other than that, which it can't be, then it's 30 feet. I mean, it's,
Not following you. It's 150 feet, and if it's something other than that, which it can't be, it's 30.
The way in which it's
I don't know.
written, the way in which it's
Yeah, I
written,
know I'm a little tired,
the
but I
way
don't
in
know
which
if I
it,
was
the way in
only
which,
one that didn't
it-
get
the way
that.
in which it's written says that
Okay.
that the setback will be 150 feet if it's adjacent to the following parcels, okay?
All right.
Zoning, okay? And it lists every one that we have,
Okay.
okay? And then it says,
I-2 in Manning.
huh?
I-2 in Manning is the only one that doesn't list.
Yep.
So, I mean, we just took one size fits all.
Right.
Was the whole point of that.
Yeah.
And industrial 2 probably should look different than industrial 1.
And the scary thing is, maybe you remember this one, I remember spending a lot of time on the setbacks. I remember spending hours on it, and we came up with this. I don't know,
From one meeting to
for,
another.
for hours of work, I mean, we came up with a one-size-fits-all. That's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I know we discussed, having, making, differences in it by using buffers and stuff like that.
Stuff like that. I thought we did
Yeah,
that.
Instead of just having a plain thing, but I think we probably got tired of all those things, paying something.
Exactly. That
Well,
sounds
Well,
good.
it says the side yard depth and rear yard depth minimums abutting an A20, A10, AC, RR5, CR, R2, VR, VC, RU, RC, CR, CHM, courthouse, base district, planned development district, or an overlay district is 150 feet. But in any other district, it's 25 feet.
Yeah, I see
And
what,
we- I would just-
now I see what
we don't
you're
have any
saying. Yeah,
other-
we don't have any, I'm with you now, yeah, that's,
I-2 in Manning.
yeah, the other two,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it goes from 150 to
25.
25.
Yeah, to 25,
And that probably isn't right.
yeah,
So yes, we'll entertain.
yeah.
We'll have some examples for you.
Okay, that sounds
April
great.
meeting.
So that'll be at
And
the
may- and maybe a
April
solution
workshop.
other than some examples?
So how many, what percentage of the lots are you incurring that,
Yeah, Mag.
give you a headache?
I haven't looked at all the I lots yet. I've just looked at a few.
About 5.
Well, we've got some in Jefferson that they run along, there's some vacant ones that butt up to A10 to the north. We've got some on the south side of Oak Bridge. The ones that we have in South Creek are kind of in the middle, so they're gonna have the 25-foot because they're up against the other
Right,
eye.
yeah.
Moslow is an issue. Mosley's gonna be an issue, and then Weight Pack's gonna be an issue, and Rapid Manufacturing's gonna be an issue.
A lot of them.
Yeah, one of them talked to me.
Yeah, I'm
some
sure.
time ago.
So we know that there's gonna be issues out there. Part of the whole, on the economic development side, what we look at is, do you have product? Well, we've got land, is it ready to go? Well, you gotta go through the BZA, you gotta do this, and then suddenly.
Yeah, it's not so appealing
Yeah,
anymore.
Right,
So it's not ready to go.
right.
Yeah,
It's not ready to go. So we wanna, take a look at that, and yes, we'll
That's
bring back a
natural
solution.
outcropping from this.
In fact,
For
it's twice times 3 votes to go, right?
Yes, at
I mean,
least.
that's-
Yep.
All right, we look forward to it.
And twice times 3 votes in 4 months
Yeah.
of time, probably.
Probably longer,
Yeah, so.
okay.
The last item that I had, this is a draft of the scope I put together for the Route 60 Corridor East Area Plan. Met with VDOT 2 weeks ago to talk about utilizing one of their on-calls to do the study, to work with us to do it. There were divisions of VDOT that had no business being in the room because they were L&D and traffic, and they're not really, I needed the planning group in the room, but somehow they didn't get invited to the meeting.
It's classic.
I talked to the planning group a week
Was
later.
Ann Darby there?
No.
Okay.
I talked to her at the MPO meeting Friday, and we're gonna schedule a meeting about the other side of this plan that gets done through them. The one thing, the planning folks pretty much can do everything that we're talking about, with the exception of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. the sixth bullet from the bottom of the first page, which says recommendation of potential architectural guidelines, patterns for new construction. Because we're dealing with VDOT, so they're kind of a traffic group.
Yeah.
But they understand, and there's a requirements for the relationship between land use and traffic improvements that are needed, the build-out scenarios they can do, all of that stuff. That was the one item that I got serious, don't know that we have anybody that knows how to do that. That's okay. We've got design guidelines in our zoning ordinance. We'll be okay. So this is just kind of the draft that we put together. I'm hoping that I'll be able to have a meeting with them, with the planning folks in a couple of weeks. And if we can get the go-ahead, then they'll use their on-call, and then we'll start the process. And essentially, the way we're going to work it is the on-call, while it's working for them, is really going to answer to us.
Well, we can use their on-call contracts, right?
Yes.
By code. Who do they have on call?
They have a ton of people on call.
That was
you
my
know.
next question. How are you gonna pick?
Well, they do the picking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But they know they've said that I can be involved in the process, so I'm okay with that. And I know a lot of their on-calls that they have, not only do they have, that transportation engineering, but a lot of them have a land use planning arm within the company.
Okay.
So that's the important thing.
Weren't we going to get money from the MPO? Okay, to expand this, or is this the expansion? This is the
it.
whole, okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
So what we got
this
is,
it.
this one would be done with the RSTP money that we got through the MPO, the $150,000.
Okay, the grant, basically.
Then we have another plan being done by the RRPDC.
That's what I'm thinking of.
That is our turn in the rural
Mm-hmm.
transportation piece. They're gonna do from Flat Rock west,
Okay, that's
part of the
what I
corridor.
was.
This is just the
Eastern.
county line to
Yeah,
Flat Rock.
okay.
Will be done here.
When is that one going to start coming online?
I talked with Ann last Friday when I was at the meeting. She's gonna schedule a call or a meeting. They haven't got it started yet, but they're working towards getting that going.
Now, will that be going through the planning commission as well, as much as this one will, or is that a little different?
I think it's gonna be a little bit different, but I'm still gonna want them to come and meet with y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. So, take a look at it, and if you see anything glaring that isn't in there, with the exception of architectural stuff, because that just scared the engineers to death.
Okay.
But I think they're pretty much willing to move forward and help us out with that, so.
Is the transportation piece of it just deal with traditional VDOT, we gotta move more cars faster? Because that's been death for rural communities.
Right.
I mean, that has not worked
Yeah.
anywhere
No.
for
Well,
keeping your rural character.
what I want them to do is work with the plan in the context of our comp plan.
That was the goal.
That's the key. So, what I want to be able to do is, we have, our land use plan says we want village residential here, village center here. Take those densities, come up with a build-out scenario, then what type of impacts does that then put on our existing infrastructure? Let's have the conversation. We talk about 6 lanes on 60, but we also talk about parallel roads.
You don't need both.
The reality is we can't afford probably either one.
Yeah.
But you certainly can't afford both. Which route are we gonna take? Which do we want to encourage? We know we want to preserve the median on 60. How do we go about looking at, one of the things that I want to do is key intersection improvements, and get those intersection improvements working through the MPO so we can get funding to address them, and then hopefully at some point in time, then we can connect the dots. But we need to get some things going, and I want to make sure that what we're doing is setting us up in the long run, that we're not having to go back and do something again. So, just take the Dorset Road intersection. If we do something there, and as a result of this plan, and we come up with something, it needs to be designed to where it's the ultimate that we need, so we're not coming back later on, tearing
Saying, do we
out
want
curb and
one,
gutter
two, or-
again
yeah.
and redoing we can't do that. I'm not a big proponent of that type of activity, so, but yes, I think we need to look at, in keeping with our comp plan, as using that as the framework for it, and look at alternatives. We want to do bike ped, things of that nature.
Are you concerned at all with the update, quote-unquote, of the comprehensive plan, how that's going to tie in with this? Okay.
Well,
You know, I mean,
I will say that I think a couple of things, and no different than what we talked about before. I think the comp plan is a really good document.
We've been told that a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is a very, I've looked at comp plans, I've looked at really bad, I've been a part of a really bad comp plan process. This is a good comp plan. The other thing is, we really haven't had an opportunity to implement it. The plan got adopted in 10 as everything was going nose down. And had you had it when everything was just shooting skyrocket, you would have got an opportunity to implement it and see how it worked. I think the concepts are good, whether we're required to have UDAs by state code now or not. I think it makes sense to densify areas, to consolidate services, to provide services, and to limit the sprawl. Really what happens is into that ag area. You want to keep the green, but if we have the Wild West going on, you don't have any more green. So I think there's a few tweaks that need to be made to the plan, but I don't think we need to just chuck the baby out with the bathwater. And with that, I think we move forward, because right now, the only thing we can do is move forward in the context of what we have in front of us.
right.
So this is the context of what we have. This is what the comp plan calls for. Let's move in that direction. We have an opportunity to take some concepts that maybe we would like to incorporate in the comp plan and incorporate it here. And really, you can adopt the Route 60 corridor as an amendment to the comprehensive plan, and theoretically, that could buy you 5 more years, because you've looked at your comp plan and you made an adoption, you made an adjustment to it, so.
Well, in fact, we've had 3 down zonings of subdivisions, okay, in the past couple of years. So sprawl, for economic reasons, is going the other way.
Yeah. Other than this one anomaly we have going on.
There's always an anomaly.
And that one's interesting, though. I think for me, that poses some challenges for us. So, but take a look at the scope, let me know what you think, and I'll keep you up to date as to where we are with talking with VDOT and getting this thing moving.
Is this scope, a real quick question, is this scope set, or do you, when you say take a look at it, do you want us to say if we see anything we want to add in
If
here?
you see anything you want to
Okay.
add in there, I can
Okay.
always talk. When I gave it to VDOT, I said the word draft is on it for a reason.
Okay,
We haven't nailed anything down yet, other than the fact that they absolutely can't do architectural stuff,
okay.
which is okay with me.
We don't have our architectural commission anymore.
Before we wrap up real quick, one thing on the 7-Eleven overlay, what's the plan with that going forward? I realize we said we liked it. Is it going to come to us, public hearing?
Yeah.
Because
if
we would
can-
need to make an amendment, obviously. So
Right.
that's what for next month,
that
correct?
We'll take what we have there. If
Okay.
everybody's comfortable with how I've inserted everything, we'll just use that and move forward as the amendment
Okay.
to the district, well, to the code for the district.
Do we have any other notable public hearings for April?
I don't think one.
One CUP.
Okay, just curious. All
Yeah,
right.
we have CUPs, but no one's coming there. Only the down zone. We're not getting any.
Yeah, not any.
Not getting any rezonings to go up any, so. Just real quickly, last night, the board approved both the CUP requests that you heard at your last meeting. 4-0, Mr. Williams wasn't there, he's under the weather. And we approved the recommended water and wastewater district, the one that was recommended by staff and recommended by the planning commission, that included Holly Hills, Dorset Ridge, Genito,
Okay.
all of those. That was approved last night.
So you approve that as what?
We had to, well.
You
we-
approved a map?
We approved that, we had
The
to.
map had been approved before, but the map was out, correct?
If
Right.
ever
Okay,
they
what
want
was
to
that?
be in
Yeah.
the future,
Well,
they can be included. That's
so-
all that is.
So it's a
What-
plan?
Well, yeah, it was, okay,
Okay, no, it's
the
not.
water and wastewater plan was adopted as a plan,
Okay.
3-2,
Several months ago.
2 months ago.
Okay.
When we had that public hearing it was February, so it was 1 month ago.
1 month ago, yeah.
Or what? Yeah.
It was
1
a month ago.
when we had the public hearing on the district, it was a 2-2.
Well, Jason made the motion to adopt the district and exclude those neighborhoods. And that ended in a 2-2 tie, so it got bumped forward to the next meeting.
Okay.
So what we had to do was, the establishment of the service districts was a separate action. What we found out in our research was a few years back, there was a revision of the entire chapter 46, well, not the entire, but I think Article 2, which deals with the wastewater and water districts. There's a rewrite of that entire piece. And when they did the rewrite, they left off the last piece talking about the districts.
Identifying the district.
Identifying the districts. So theoretically, we didn't, up until
You
last
didn't
night, we didn't have a
have any.
district.
Right.
Because when they did the amendment, they didn't
left
include
it
that
off.
language,
Okay.
so it wasn't there anymore. So we had to go back in,
But we've been operating
reestablish.
like they were there.
Yeah, at Luxton.
Yeah.
We had to go back in, put that back, and then when we did that, we adopted the map with a specific date. So there's a map that Dewberry actually did 3 maps for us with 3 separate dates. One was what was recommended by Mr. Moore at the last meeting, taking out the districts. There was one that was what staff had recommended, and there was one map that was, this is the current service district. And then the board, I believe on Mr. Norvick's motion, recommended approval of what staff had recommended.
And you added those districts
We
back
added
in.
that,
Okay.
we did it as
That's the-
one district.
Okay.
So it just allows them, at some point, if they want to become part of the district. There's really no downside to it.
And
Correct,
the-
yeah. I don't know why you leave
key-
them out.
Well, the key was,
There was a fear.
there was a fear that they would have to pay a
Precedent.
bunch of fees.
Right, right.
The key, I think, to all of it was state code language that Tom found, that we can't require mandatory hookup at this point in time. We'd have to go to the General Assembly and ask to be allowed to do that under a specific code section. So I
Okay.
think that
That's-
alleviated
yeah.
any fear.
And that is for an existing place, not for the district and new people coming into the district, correct?
Well, the state code section says unless you're on this list of accepted counties, like Goochland's on it, we're not, that the language says you cannot compel connections to your system, and it doesn't say new versus.
Oh, really?
It doesn't seem to make a distinction.
But you could get added to that list. potentially.
Right, we'd have to petition, Goochland did it about 3 years ago and petitioned to get added to the list. So if at some point the board wanted to, we could make a petition to General
Yeah.
Assembly and get added to the list.
March, just so I understand,
Yes, sir.
since we talked about 3 different maps. Mr. Moore had concerns about 3 subdivisions. Those 3 subdivisions are included in the staff recommended.
Yes.
Okay, that-
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, anything else?
No, ma'am.
I was going to give you all one quick update.
Sure.
In case anybody's wondering, Clarion litigation.
Yeah.
As you know,
That was a
ages ago, we sued McBride Clarion, on this
Yeah.
zoning ordinance. They sought leave of court to file a third-party claim against Clarion of Colorado, who apparently subbed it to Clarion of North Carolina. But anyway, so they got court permission to sue Clarion of Colorado. Instead, they served a music company, Clarion
I
Music.
know.
Yeah, when you sent that was just so bizarre.
So we just yesterday entered a new order over at the circuit court. Now they got another authority to refile their third-party complaint and hopefully serve the right party this time. So we're probably looking at another good 45 to 60 days of nothing happening while we wait for, because it's in our best interest for that third party to be there, and so we're more than happy to wait.
Okay.
So, but I just want everybody to know, nothing's happening because of this big mess up on McBride Gerald's part, but we're fine with sitting back and waiting.
Except for their legal bill is running, right?
Well, their bill's running.
Yeah.
We've done some discovery, so their bill is run. I just got 3,000 documents from them, and I sent them about 11,000, or 3,000 pages of documents. I sent them about 11,000 pages of documents, so, yeah, there's stuff happening.
You gotta love lawyers. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah. I mean, talk about buried in paperwork.
Oh, no, all my documents were PDFs.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, wow. All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I just
All
wanted to
right.
give you.
Thank you, sincerely. All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good enough.
Go home and go to bed.
Yeah, we exchanged 14,000 pages and no paper. It's all digital.
Very good.
Allow house